Hello everyone, this is Zooc, and today I'm going to be doing a shading and texturing tutorial, or somewhat of an explanation of how it is that I draw certain things. It's been just about half a year since I've done my last one, so I thought it was about time that I do a new one, especially since people are constantly asking like how I draw my stuff and how I shade and how it is that I go about it. To be honest, there's no real process. I don't have a method in my mind. I just sort of do it as it happens. But I'm going to try to explain some of the things that I draw. I'm sure I can make somewhat of a method out of it. So anyway, today I'm going to be approaching three different items or objects. Chains, because I promised that I would do a video on how to draw chains. Leather, which is also interesting. And horns, because horns give people a lot of issues. Some of the guys that have submitted drawings to me to ask for my opinion and such always seem to have troubles drawing horns whenever it is that they do them. But I'm going to start off with chains. Chains are basically, well, they're made metal tubes interconnected, right? So there's no real like trickiness to it, other than the fact that you have to think for a second where the light comes from, and that's how you end up drawing a good looking chain link. Obviously, when they're really small, I don't do the same process as I'm doing now, because it would be a waste of time and it's not nearly as visible as it is right now. But most of the time, if chains are a focus of a certain drawing, then I try to do my best to make it somewhat realistic, at least, or convincing, so to say. So the easiest way to draw a chain properly is to have it on a dark background, because then you can see the highlights very well, as opposed to drawing outlines and trying to make it on a white background. So right now I'm just gonna like detail out the outline of the chain link. Hopefully you can see this. I'm hoping it's not too light for you. And I'm gonna just shade in like the background. I'm just gonna make it really dark, basically black, so then I can like successfully detail out the highlights. So hold on to your seats for a second. All right, now that it's on a black background, we can proceed to start shading in the dark side, the dark parts, and leaving out the highlights. Now, let's say, for example, that the light is coming from the top left, as it usually does in most drawings, but it's not like perpendicular. It's sort of coming from this direction, like sort of your left shoulder, more like, yeah, I guess that would be a good direction. So that's how the light usually falls in drawings. Not because it's just people just want it to. It's just because it's one of the most common and most effective ways of detailing out shadows and highlights for the human eye. It just makes sense. Obviously, like front light also is fine, and most are fine. It's just top left is just the most common. So I just usually choose to use that one just because I'm used to it. There's nothing wrong with using the same direction of light, unless you're going for a special effect, like a portrait with the light coming from the front or the back. If it came from the back, you probably wouldn't see much of anything, but yeah, people do that sometimes, just for the sake of it. So anyway, it's coming from the top left, sort of like this. So obviously this part is going to be highlighted, this entire part, and it's going to stop around here, because this part is not in the light. But at the same time, since the light is coming from this direction, it's going to fall here and it's going to bounce on this piece as well. Because as I've explained in previous videos, let's say you have a curved surface on a flat surface. So if the light is coming from this side, this part is going to be highlighted, yeah? But also the light falls on the flat surface as well, so it's going to bounce back and light up this part just a bit though, not much, just a bit. So you got to keep that into account if you want to make something look realistic. Anyway, let's see if I can find like a semi-sharp pencil. I'm using the Prismacolor ones because I don't want any graphite glare in this video, because it's quite important to see like how it really works, because with graphite you get a lot of glare. It doesn't matter in normal drawings because they're so detailed, so you don't, it doesn't take out anything, but in this case it's not. So okay, let's see. So this part should be dark somewhat, but at the same time I'm not going to make it dark all the way towards the edge, because then it's going to take away from the whole realism bit. So just start darkening a bit, very light, and work your way towards the highlight. Also, this part should be somewhat just slightly darkened a bit, because light doesn't get to the very back of it, but you can see it anyway. So the edge just slightly darkened, not a lot, just to give it a bit of depth. Right, so that's basically it for the demonstration. Now I decided to not do the third link because it's basically identical to this one, so there's no point in it. One key thing to remember, I know it's not perfect, I'm very well aware of that. Probably some shadows are misplaced and whatnot, but it looks okay. And when you're gonna draw like tiny little chain links, it won't really matter. Another tip is just keep in mind that you need to be sparing with white. Like these edges, this is the what's it called? I forgot what it's called. Fuck's sake. Not much of an instructional video. Edge light or something like that. It shouldn't be white. Only stuff that's directly facing the light should be white. Like this part here. It's good to like keep things to a minimum when it comes to white. I see a lot of people doing drawings that just seem very empty. Like even a slight shade, it'll help give it some depth a little, just a bit. So try to not keep things white unless they're like directly facing the light source. When you're gonna draw like small chains, the way I do it is I make half a link and then I make the other half and keep going. It's good to have like some contour lines, knowing where the chain is heading, and just follow those. It's very simple to get a decent looking chain going. And of course you try to make a light sketch first and then reinforce it with the proper outline. It's okay if small links have outlines, by the way, because I know I've mentioned before that I'm trying to stray from the whole outline business because it's kind of noobish. But it's okay if links have outlines, and then just fill them in, all of them, and then just give them like a really light shade. Just trying to get in some like highlights and shadows just to give it some sort of dimension. I usually don't focus a lot on chains, but for example, in my Spawn drawing, which you should check out, it has like a fuck ton of chains. I think I grew like gray hairs trying to draw those. So it's good practice once in a while to just draw something that has a lot of links in it. And now I don't mean the game character, obviously, so no jokes about that. So that's about it for chains. I hope you got something from it and it was somewhat educational. If all else fails, you can always just Google chain link and look like how the shadows and highlights are there and try to replicate that. depends on how chromed they are, really. Mine are sort of matte, not so shiny, but there are links out there that are like really, really shiny, so you can see like every single bit of shadow and every single highlight in clear lines, something like that. And like edges here is very well detailed. Just depends on how chromed you want it. I don't particularly like drawing very shiny things, just because I think they look unnatural. Because unless something is new, it isn't really going to be very shiny. But yeah, that's about it for chains. Gonna draw. What was I gonna draw? Leather for next. Leather is really tricky though, so hopefully it'll turn out well. So yeah, here we go.